So we are starting our Ramchal class, and we are finishing today chapter 5, and Mafsidei Zehirut. How do we lose the ability or the skill of being very careful? So he says there are 3 things that cause us to lose our careful nature, which is, do you guys remember this or no?
The work that we do.
The day-to-day grind. Mm-hmm. Second, foolishness and frivolity, right? Like standing on top of a balcony with a guitar, serenading guys while they walk by. And the third, the company that we are hanging out with. It's very important because the company is affecting us. If you will pay attention to what happens in the yeshiva, as guys move from one level to another, they get more serious and more sort of buttoned down, not only because of the level that they came, now they're sort of getting to a higher level, but also the guys that they're around, the guys that they're hanging out with, are more serious. And so that is the metzias, that you are able to maintain the skills that you've developed. However, when you go back to La La Land, right, or back to Canada, which is as close to La La Land as possible, the question is, who are you going back to? Who are you going to hang out with? The same guys that you were going and drinking with?
What if you don't have any other options?
Then stay here. Then you stay here.
I mean, even if you're there, you still have an option to not hang out with them.
Good. See? Hang out with Grandpa.
And who do you find?
He's not going to contribute to the delinquency of a bacher. Okay, so the company. Okay, it's clear to us. We don't need to spend too much time on this. But the idea is, it's very important. The idea is that even if someone's going to make fun of you for living up to the principles that you are living with, and to your commitment to Torah, think of it as if you were making $100,000, $200,000 a year, and your friends were making fun of you. How much would that mean to you?
Nothing.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You're like, I'm laughing all the way to the bank. Yes, you're right. I am the loser. Correct. You're right. You're the winner. Just think how much more so Torah learning and our ability to perfect ourselves, to complete certain aspects of our personality, and being able to connect to Hashem, thereby feeling the pleasure of connecting to God. If somebody laughed at me because they wanted to take that away from me, forget it. It's not going to work. That's how you maintain the carefulness, the midah of carefulness, as you grow in your relationship with God. Now we're starting chapter 6. Chapter 6, we're moving on a different phase. Up to now, the Ramchal is talking about being careful. And usually being careful means that we are focusing on mitzvahs lo taseh. Right? Being careful means that you are avoiding doing certain actions or paying attention to the habits that you have where it's causing you to do things that you shouldn't do. Now we are looking at the other side of the world. What's the other side of the world? You have one side of the world is mitzvahs lo taseh.
Mitzvahs taseh.
Mitzvahs taseh. Mitzvahs lo taseh means that those are prohibitive commandments. Prohibitive means you're prohibited from performing it. And there is prescriptive commandments, where you are prescribing certain behavior. Right? That's the philosophical terms. Prescriptive and prohibitive. One, you're trying to prohibit certain behaviors, and the other ones, you're prescribing certain behaviors or certain actions. So the midah of zehirut, of carefulness, focuses mainly on the aspects of the Torah that are lo taseh, of the prohibitive commandments. Midat zrizut, being quick, focuses on mitzvah aseh. And there's a question that some of the commentators on the Ramchal ask, which is worth just raising, and maybe if you want to discuss it, we could. Usually the way we understand the Ramchal is that it is one step, then another step, and another step, and another step. So if we say that you need the midah of carefulness of zehirut first, and then you can get to midah of zrizut second, question is, really? Mitzvah aseh and mitzvah lot aseh are two categories that simultaneously you have to maintain. You can't just say, this year, Rabbi, I'm working on all the prohibitive commandments. I'm making sure that I'm not breaking Shabbos. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing this. What about all the mitzvahs aseh? Kriyat Shema, Kiddush Shabbos, Tefillah, learning Torah, right? Yes.
Wouldn't mitzvot lo taseh technically be mitzvah that you have to do, like the taseh, because you have to actively put yourself in an environment that you wouldn't be able to.
Good. So what you're talking about, whether passive or active. So what you're saying is that a mitzvah lo taseh, a prohibitive, is still an active. There's an active aspect to it. I agree 100%. But it's not, it's in a sense you are abstaining yourself from performing a particular act. That's the mitzvah lo taseh. So it starts with a desire, a will, and you're essentially trying to stop an act to occur. I'll give you an example from a completely different field. In Holocaust studies, when they were doing investigations of resistance, right, when the Jews were resisting the Nazis, they essentially made two types of categories. One category was active resistance, and the other one is passive resistance. Active resistance was blowing up, buildings and shooting and killing and fighting and, doing those sort of things. And passive is anything else. Smuggling food, printing newspapers in the ghetto, organizing a Shabbat meal, all those things, those are considered passive. One of the scholars said that is a wrong dichotomy. The dichotomy should be, right, the two categories should be armed resistance and non-armed resistance. Why? Why are we getting rid of the passive? Because exactly what you said. When a Jew stood and the Nazis were beating him, right? And he wasn't going down, was he being passive?
Yes.
Was he? If we started beating you when you're standing and you are holding your ground, you're not going down, are you being passive?
You're making an action to not fall, but you're not fighting back.
That is fighting back. That is absolutely a fighting back. When you are smuggling food into the ghetto, are you not fighting back? You're fighting back. Because what are they trying to do? Starve you to death.
It's not openly fighting back, though.
It's not armed resistance, but it certainly is resistance. Because what were they after? The death of every Jew. When you're not dying, you are resisting them. Simple. So that is a very good point, Jacob. So I hear that even when it comes to a prohibitive mitzvah, we have to actively stop ourselves from doing what the Torah tells us not to do. Sometimes it's just a thought in our head. Sometimes it requires much, much more. Right? The midah of zrizut, of quickness, deals with aseh. And they both go together. You have to work on both of these midas, both of these aspects together. You have to work on yourself not to do things that God tells you not to do. And you have to do the things that God tells you to do. Why? It's very simple. If you're holding in this book, as we learned it, the way that we learn what not to do is through what?
Learning what to do.
Learning Torah, right? It is only Torah that tells us how to perfect ourselves. And the perfection is, don't do these acts and do these acts. So that even in the previous midah, you have a mitzvah of learning Torah, which is a positive mitzvah. So you see that they both come together and it's not consecutive. That you have to do one before you get to the other. Okay. Then he says to us like this. In the same way that you have to use a lot of mental capabilities and great amount of thought to save yourself from evil, the same type of thinking and motivation is needed in order to perform the mitzvahs. Because if you don't, you're going to lose opportunities for mitzvahs. You have to look at it that when a mitzvah comes to you, grab it. Grab it and do it, perform it. Because if you don't grab it and do it right now, it's gone. You missed out. And the Yetzer, he says, that the Yetzer hara betachbulotav, mishtadel ha-Yetzer hara betachbulotav, le'apil et ha'adam. That the Yetzer hara tries in his all sorts of trickery to drop you, to cause you to fall in the trappings of sin. Isn't that a beautiful line? Trappings of sins. B'michmorot hatchet. So, it is not only is he trying to cause you to perform a sin, but he's trying to cause you not to perform a mitzvah. And you have to struggle against that also.
I hear a lot about the Yetzer hara and the way people look at it, but my question is, like, how far should we anthropomorphize it into like a sentient being and it takes control of us? Like, how much should we look at it just like our own side, or lazy side, or our mischievous side of our actual consciousness ourselves? How far should we take it? Should we? I've heard it literally said like it's all but a literal outside entity. Like what's the definition of that word, and how should we look at it?
Yetzer hara means evil inclination. And after Gan Eden, after in the Garden of Eden, it's within us. It's inside us. It's part of us. But we can control it. We can control it. And the Yetzer uses every trick in the book to get us to do what the Yetzer wants. But you can defeat it easily. And it's very simple. Like the Yetzer sometimes says to you, go to shul. You're like, really? Like, I should go to shul? Yeah, go to shul. And you get to shul and he says, look at that funny yarmulke that guy's wearing. Look at the rabbi, he's got something green in his teeth. Right? That is, it gets you, it tells you, go to class. Oh, but they already started. I don't want to bother. Why don't you go outside? Don't be rude. That's the Yetzer. That's the Yetzer. Because the Yetzer wants you not to learn. He's trying to trick you. I always say that, it's the Yetzer hara essentially runs sting operations to see if you're going to fall, right? To catch a predator. Somebody was telling me about what that is. That's essentially what the Yetzer hara tries to do. Creates a setup, like there's a, I don't know, 2-year-old girl on the internet and some guy drives, 9 hours for the 2-year-old. And then the cops jump all over him and he's surprised. Like, really? You think she'll have access to the computer? I don't know, whatever they're looking for. I don't understand these people. I don't understand what's so attractive about a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old. I don't get it.
Some rabbis got caught. A rabbi got caught.
Still? It doesn't matter who.
No, I don't understand it either. But
I don't understand it. I don't get it. So that's you could see the Yetzer gets a hold of you and you essentially do things that make no sense. Then he says something that is, I feel it. So for me, it resonates. Says the Ramchal, he says, Kiteva ha'adam kaved me'od. The nature of a human being is heavy. The nature of a human being is heavy. It sort of is pulling us down towards the ground, towards matter. So therefore, a person does not want great toil and work. But a person who wants to merit to worship God, so says the Ramchal, has to go against his nature and hurry up and maniach atzmo biyad kvuto. Because if you let yourself follow your nature, your heaviness, you will not succeed. Therefore, as Pirkei Avot says, he quotes, you should be as brave as a tiger, a leopard, light as an eagle, quick as a tzvi. What's a tzvi? It's not a deer. It's not a deer. No, a stag. It's a male. A deer is a female. Tzvi is a male. And you should be brave as a lion to do the will of your God in heaven. You have to have all those qualities. And in what aspects? What aspects do you need to pay attention to those? Torah u'ma'asim tovim. In the commandments of the Torah and of good deeds. Because our basic nature is not to do them. I was talking to Teddy earlier that it is as if there is, in order to perform a mitzvah, you have to push this weight. You have to lift this weight. And there's a struggle. But if you do it and you just get up there and just boom, lift it and do it, you'll succeed. If you're just going to go walk up there and hold the bar and you're like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The idea really is that, yes, it is heavy. We have our nature is to be heavy, and we need to go against our own nature to perform the Torah and the mitzvahs. Question. I always expect somebody to ask, why does God make it so difficult? Why?
Because if you don't put in work, it's not going to feel good.
Okay, that's one way.
The more reward you do it, you'll do it.
Okay.
The harder it is, the more reward you get.
Because what if it was our nature to always do the good thing, do the right thing? There's no bchira. There's no act of will. Right? It is an issue of a will. We have to have a choice. If it was our true nature to perform the Torah every single time, then did you make a choice? No. You just wake up and you say, right? Then you get up and you yadayim, boom, okay. Then you go and daven, right? And then you eat your breakfast, you make your brachot. Everything is... But the idea of that you have to go against your own nature, that is what the Ramchal is telling us. And it needs to be this way. Because through lifting that weight, that's how we perfect ourselves. That is how we get control over the entity that is called body. As opposed to the other way around. Because the body will take over you. It does all the time. Oh, this class is boring. You don't want to hear this. Shut down. Shut down. That's what it does. Why? Because when you shut down, you don't hear words of Torah. What happens? Who wins? Yetzer. Got you. There was a question, can you perform a mitzvah while you're asleep? And it depends on what you're dreaming. Right? If you're dreaming the wrong thing, then I guess that's where your imagination is.
If you stop yourself from dreaming that dream.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. You can do that.
We don't even know what dreams are.
You can wake yourself up.
If you know you're in the dream.
We don't even know what
If
dreams
you
are.
don't know
Right,
you're in
it's
the dream, you
It's called
can't.
lucid dream.
No, I'm serious.
But
No,
I'm
you've
saying
never
that
woken yourself up from a dream before.
Every night you go to bed, you know what.
But you have to realize that you're in the dream. to wake
If
yourself
it's pretty,
You can practice controlling your dreams.
It also depends
There's a
why
whole
it's
technique
lucid
behind
dreaming.
it.
Yeah.
So, okay, good.
Shock therapy.
But would that be considered
That
mitzvah?
won't be
If you
necessary.
stop if you realize that you're in a dream that you're not supposed to be in, and you stop whatever's going on.
They tell us Maise, Rav Kanievsky, between the 9 days of Av, woke up from his nap and asked for a bottle of wine. And they said, we don't drink wine, it's 9 days. He says, I'm making a siyum. He says, what? He says, I finished Masechet Brachot. I said, how? He says, in my dream. I went through every daf. Every Rashi, every Tosfot, I went through the whole thing, and I'm doing a siyum.
Current Rav Kanievsky?
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to prove it though.
3 times.
To whom? Who's going to test him? Go, you got to have his guy. I'll test you and see if you know your stuff. I have to prove it. How do you prove it? Anybody has a question and goes and asks him. Every single person that has a question that they don't have an answer, they go to him and ask. is this, what do you do here? What's the answer here? Where does it say this? I have a friend who has a publishing company, and there was a book that we gave all sorts of midrashim, and there was a midrash there that he said we couldn't find it anywhere. And they went to Rav, they couldn't find the computer, they couldn't find it anywhere. And he showed him this, he says, it's nowhere. You'll never find it. They brought up a computer, there was a computer program that they said tells you every word in the Torah. You know, how many times this, how many times that. So he said, how many times does the word Moshe appear in the Torah? So they punch it in, they tell him, I don't remember what it is, 46 times. He says, wrong. There's 48. And he's like, no, the computer is right. He says, no. One time it says Miseh, but it's spelled Mem Shin Hey, which is Moshe. And it's wrong. Your computer has, that is, he said your number are wrongs because it's two more than what it needs to be. Because we were talking about Moshe. It says Miseh, that's not Moshe, that should be taken out. And Masha, to draw out. That's also spells Mem Shin Hey. So that, you're going to tell him, we're going to bring somebody to just test you. Don't drink the wine yet. Eliasaf is coming and he's going to test you on this. Do the pin test, right? Okay, what does this mean? You know.
And why would you test the guy that's bringing wine?
What?
Why would you test the guy that's bringing
No, he's saying, he's making a siyum, that is, he finished learning a masechet.
In his dream.
So he's celebrating it. So, here's another very important idea. He says, Shlomo HaMelech teaches us about being lazy and how much damage being lazy it causes. And he quotes a pasuk from Mishlei, from Proverbs. So he says, the years of a person, I'm just freely translating, it's not 100%, but he says, me'at shenot, me'at tnumot me'at chibuk yadayim lishkav. He says, don't sleep, a little bit of sleep, a little bit of rest, a little bit to lay with your hands like this. So he says that a person who is lazy, even though he doesn't cause any evil, because he's not sinning, he is bringing evil upon himself because of shev ve'al ta'aseh shelo. Because he is refraining from performing the mitzvahs, he is harming himself. Why? Because the whole purpose of the mitzvahs, both prescriptive and prohibitive, are to help us become better people, to perfect ourselves. And if we are not using the mitzvahs, we are not performing the mitzvahs, whether it's prohibitive or prescriptive, then we are harming ourselves. Even when a person is saying, listen, I'm not sinning. I don't go on the computer, I don't look at inappropriate movies, I don't eat pistachio ice cream, right? I don't get myself involved in all of this stuff. I just sit in my room and relax. I play chess. No harm in playing chess. So he says he's not performing mitzvahs. And that is causing. That is, even though he's not doing evil with his own hands, don't think that he is not harming himself. It's a very, very important principle in the midah of zrizut. That it's not simply avoiding evil, but it's also doing good. Okay? Everybody with me? Binyamin, with us? Good. V'od amar. And further he said.
What question?
Yes.
When it comes to doing good, are you? So if you're just being lazy, are you? Is it a sin? Is it not okay also that you're, because avoiding the good, you're also trying to avoid the evil?
You're avoiding the good so that you don't get evil, but good can't cause evil.
Right, but when you're
What?
No.
I think you're saying that when you're being lazy, you're avoiding both evil and good at the same time.
Well, okay, so that is evil unto itself.
By avoiding the good.
Remember, it is like a binary. It's either you're doing good or you're doing evil. If you're not doing evil and you're not doing good, it is evil. Because you're harming yourself. See, you're thinking, I'm not doing evil, but I'm not doing good, so I'm sort of right in the middle. Off switch. There's plus, minus. I'm not doing the plus, and And I'm not doing the minus. Remember we talked, yeah, go ahead. What?
If you're not moving forward, you're going backwards.
That's exactly what we said, yes. If you're not growing, you're not coming closer, you're falling backwards. And the farther you fall backwards, then you are harming yourself and causing evil to yourself. Even if you say, but I'm not doing anything. Right. That's exactly what the problem is. Do the right thing, not do something. In America, people have this, one second. People say, do something, right? In a crisis, do something. Wait, why do I have to do something? Let's figure out what's needed to do. Let's do the right thing. What do you mean do something? There's a fire. Okay, I'll bring gasoline. I told me to do something, right? What do you want me to do?
So like, what about on Shabbos? Like, is that a different, like, if you're not technically, like, if you're just being lazy or sleeping or something on Shabbos, is that technically like you're doing nothing, or you're just keeping the Shabbos?
There's two aspects to Shabbos. Shamov is Zachor, right? There's the aspect of mitzvahs of lo taseh, of prohibitive, the things that you're not allowed to do on Shabbos. And there are mitzvahs that you are required to do on Shabbos. Kiddush, eating meals, right?
No,
davening.
So I'm saying, like, in that period, like, after you daven in the morning, after you have that second meal, and then you just, you get tired.
Chill.
Yeah.
You're just tired. It's tired. What'd you do today? I don't know. I'm just exhausted. Oh, okay. Would you have a rough week? Yeah. What do you do during the week? I just go to classes and eat. So today, if I'm resting and all my work is learning, then I shouldn't learn. No, the idea is that I saw that the Ben Ish Chai says that for every hour that you learn on Shabbos, it counts as if you learned 1,000 hours. Right? So it is multiplied by 1,000. So I don't know why you would waste any minute on Shabbos learning. Because the amount of just, merit points.
When the food settles in, you're just kind of
a little tired. But there's something to say that Onik Shabbos is to take a nap.
Rabbi, it's 4 minutes.
4 minutes. Okay. So let's stop the class now, and then we'll continue on Sunday, Im Yirtzeh Hashem.